Welcome to UFC 209 fight prediction. This is the card headlined by Woodley versus Thompson 2. It takes place in Las Vegas, March the 4th. This is by far the best card of the year so far. It could even be the best card of the year, full stop. The two main event, or main event, co-main event, let's say, are so phenomenal. I'm going to do 4 separate videos looking at each of the fighters in turn, their history, their fighting styles, how they match up against their opponents, where they're going to go from here. I think we've got 4 of the best mixed martial artists on the planet competing at 209. I'm so excited from this. I'm going to go from top to bottom. So we're going to start out with Tyrone Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson 2. Normally when the fight, when fighters rematch, the guy who won the first fight loses the second one. The one who lost usually makes some adjustments. They're the ones who are invigorated to go back and look at tape and see what they can change, whereas predominantly the guy who won it kind of coasts and ends up losing the second time around. However, this was a majority draw, so those rules don't apply. I honestly think in the first fight, Woodley should have won outright. I think he outfoxed Wonderboy. But depending on your your opinion, like Wonderboy was going forward a lot more, but I think Woodley was using his wisdom, let's say his control of the octagon to draw Wonderboy in. And in that sense, if one guy's going forward and he's got the center of the octagon, is he winning the fight? Some people might say yes, some people might say no. Actually, one of the things that surprised a lot of people was Woodley didn't really go for the takedowns. I think in the rematch that's going to change. I think he's going to take him down. It does open up Thompson's counter striking, and Wonderboy might be the best counter striker in the game right now. Obviously, that used to be Anderson Silva, but age has caught up with him, and I think Thompson might be the best counter striker in the game. I don't know if Wonderboy's going to rush in. I don't know whether he's going to try and change things. Is he going to try and take Woodley down? I doubt it very much. I'm going to go with Woodley to win. I think he's brought in Sage Northcutt. He had him last time as well, but I think from the interviews I've seen with him, Sage has really reinvigorated him. He's looking to start his own camp, kind of. He's also working over at Rufus's. I just think that Woodley has more ways to win. I think Woodley could knock out Thompson. It's quite unlikely Thompson hasn't been knocked out in all his kickboxing career and MMA career so far. But Woodley can close that distance very quickly. He's deceptively fast in that sense. I think on the ground, Woodley has a distinct advantage. But you can't discount Thompson catching him with a kick or even outpointing him. Now, that said, I think it's going to be a great one. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight, but the co-main event is probably the fight of the year. On paper, it looks like the fight of the year. I'm going to keep this prediction short and sweet, because I want to save a lot for the videos. I'm going to do the video profiles now. Khabib is maybe the most terrifying guy once he's got hold of you in MMA. Having said that, I feel Tony Ferguson has very underrated grappling. Of course, he's associated with Eddie Bravo. I think Ferguson has a huge advantage on the feet, especially when you include kicks. I think El Kukui is going to do a lot of damage there. I think he's going to catch him. I don't know whether he would be able to submit Khabib, but I think he could certainly catch him in some submission attempts that would, potentially win the round for him. But I just see them as being maybe not very similar in terms of grappling, but I think the advantage on the feet is much larger for El Cucuy than it is for Khabib in grappling. So I think this one could go all the way to points, and I think the big factor is going to be how Ferguson's grappling holds up against Khabib, because Khabib is going to put hands on him, and that's when the fight's going to get real. Can Eddie Bravo come up with a plan that's going to help Ferguson neutralize a lot of what Khabib does? Khabib is really, really excellent at one area of the game. We saw in the Michael Johnson fight, the first sign of vulnerability. And I think that Ferguson could exploit that on the feet, although I don't think he's going to get a knockout. Then we go down to the third fight on the card, which by itself could headline any card. Mark Super Simone Hunt going up against Alistair Overeem. It'd be good to see Hunt back in the cage opposed to fighting in the courtroom. I love both of these guys so much. They're both legends, rightly so as well. I certainly wouldn't be sad to see either of the guy win this and then make a run at the heavyweight title again. I don't see Alistair Overeem knocking Mark Hunt out, and I can see Hunt catching Overeem and knocking him out. This is certainly not going to be a grappling affair. This is going to be stand-up. It's probably going to be over in the first round, maybe the second. Let's go with Hunt. Lando Venata, he's become a bit of a fan favorite, especially on the Reddit MMA, site and things like that. He's become really famous because of the wheel kick KO. But he's got a really tough test in David Tamer. I think that against Tamer, he should go back to the wrestling. Venata's coming out of a great camp, and both guys are really good on the feet. But I think if Venata goes back to the wrestling, he wins this one fairly easily. If he stands up with him, and this is sometimes the problem when guys get those highlight reel knockouts, they go looking for it. Sometimes, we've seen that with Roy Nelson, Mark Hunt and people like that, even Johnny Hendricks to a certain extent. You get a knockout, you get a few knockouts, and the guys go looking for it. But I think Venata's camp are wise enough to advise him, hey, wrestle this guy. So if he does that, he wins by submission, I think. Sugar Rashad Evans finally getting down to middleweight to face four-time Olympian Dan Kelly. The way I see it going, due to Kelly's judo and BJJ background, I think Sugar should stand and strike. However, can he let his hands go like they used to? I'm not too sure. I think Kelly will close the distance. He'll tie him up, go for a trip or a throw. And okay, Evans is no slouch on the ground, but I think this is a much bigger fight for Dan Kelly, a much bigger opportunity than it is for Evans. And I see this as Dan Kelly's ticket to be catapulted into the upper echelons of the middleweight division. So I'm going to go with Dan Kelly by decision. Okay, Ed Herman was scheduled for about to be part of this card, but I think at this moment he's not got a fight going on, so we'll see how that one goes. Also, Todd Duffy. Todd Duffy was supposed to fight Mark Goodbeer. I actually had this down as being Duffy to win by TKO, but at the moment I'm hearing that Duffy is out. That's not 100% confirmed, so if that does go ahead, I would pick Duffy by TKO. He's been touted as the next big thing at heavyweight for so long. But it sounds like Goodby is going to remain on the card maybe, and Duffy's off for some reason. Alicante against Luke Sanders. We could say this is a typical veteran versus an up-and-comer bout. Even though Sanders won his debut UFC via submission, it was a huge punch that sent Maximo Blanco, to the floor and caused him to give up his back. I think Sanders keeps his train going, win by TKO. Mirsad Bektic. Again, I love this. Bektic is one of my favorite up-and-comers. I think this guy is going to be in the title picture probably next year, maybe the year after. I think he's a very talented young guy. If he has been able to make improvements since his last fight in the way that he has been improving, I think he's good enough to beat Elkins. This could be decided anywhere, but I'm going to pick Bektic to win by decision. Elkins still has a place in the top 15 in my opinion, but I think Bektic is moving into the top 10. Could even be 2 wins away. If he wins this one, 2 wins away from a title shot. So, but Elkins, we need gatekeepers in MMA. I know a lot of people don't like that idea. They don't like that term, but you need these measuring sticks. And at this stage, that's what Elkins is. He's a measuring stick, and he should be used as such. Is a guy top 10? You can put him against Elkins, and we'll see whether he's top 10. The next up, Paul Craig of Scotland against Tyson Pedro. Someone's O has to go. I think it's going to be the imposing Scott to get the win over the very game Aussie. It looks like this one will be decided by submission. If you look at the records on paper, I think Craig has the advantage in the stand-up battle. That's why I'm going to go with Craig. However, he might rock Pedro, jump on him, and Pedro will catch something. So I wouldn't be surprised if either of this guy wins, but I'm going to go with Craig because I think he's going to catch him with something standing up and then jump on him to submit him. That's all of the fights I've got down at the moment. Obviously, there could be some more coming out, but yeah, try and look out for the videos of the profiles of the main 4 guys on this card. It's going to be a beast of a show. I think it's going to be the best one of the year.